Okay, we're holding on Dav Zayin Amud Bet, about 12 lines up from Zayin Amud Bet. And in the English Art Scroll version, we're on 7B-3. And we're holding on the left side column, Asher Tasim. We're dealing with Sukkim, talking about judges. And we ended off last week talking about Ve'ela Mishpatim. And right before it starts the Parsha Mishpatim, the last Pasukim in Yitro talk about the Mizbeach should have a ramp and not steps. And then it says Ve'ela Mishpatim. So the Gemara learned two lessons from there. That the judges shouldn't run up steps, so to speak, in making their judgment. Rather, they should slowly, deliberately walk and find out the rules and then say the ruling. The second idea was that the judges should not walk over people's heads. They shouldn't walk over people's heads as walking on steps. Rather, they should show respect for the community. So now the pasuk continues, "Ve'ela mishpatim asher tasim," right? That you're going to place. Now Rashi in the Chumash says, based on a midrash, that the rabbis of Israel have to put the halachot in front of the people, like on a shulchan aruch, like it's a set table. That's why it says asher tasim, to place it in front of them. They make sense. However, our Gemara is going to take a different lesson from the word asher tasim. Asher tasim, that they place. The Gemara asks, asher tilamidem mibayile. It should have said, these are the laws that you should teach the Jewish people. Why does it say you should place in front of them? It should say you should teach them. So Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, Me'item Rabbi Hiya bar Abba, Elu Kele Hadayani. You know what it's talking about? The judges have to place things in front of them. It's talking about the utensils that they use to be judges. What does this mean? Rav Huna, Amar Hachi. Rav Huna, when he would go to a court to be a judge, he would say as follows: Afiku li mane hanutai. Prepare for me the tools of my trade. I need the tools that I need to use my job with, just like a nurse practitioner needs to use a stethoscope or other things in order to examine. The judge needs to come with his tools to judge. And what are his tools? Makel, a stick. The stick was used, according to most Mefarshim, was used to beat somebody up if they didn't listen to the Chachamim. The Malkut, Mardut, Malkut that are based on rabbinic law. Urtsu'ah, and the strap, which was used to give Malkut for the Oraita laws, for biblical laws. The Shofara, and the shofar, which was used to put someone into nidui, into excommunication, to chemim. The sandala, and the sandal, which was used for the chalitza, the special footwear that they would use to do the chalitza. And if the man didn't want to marry his brother's wife, who didn't have any children with his brother, he would have to do chalitza, and that was the sandal that the judge needed to walk with. Now, the Gemara is going to bring down psukim from Parshat Devarim. And in Devarim, talks there about judges. And it says, Va'atzaveh et shoftechem be'et hahi. And I commanded your judges at that time. To note, Rashi says the word Va'atzaveh always means to be careful with. Look at Rashi, Va'atzaveh, kol tziv'ah lashon ziruz. Who did Tanya? Kol makom shneimar tzav, ena lashon ziruz. Valmal ziraz, what he has to be careful with? Al makal, val harutzua. He has to be careful with the stick and the strap. Shumetilin emal etzibur l'shem shemayim, that he's putting fear on the people l'shem shemayim. So he has to be careful not to overdo his fear. Rabbi Yochanan, as the Gemara continues, Rabbi Yochanan said, "Keneged malkelu tzuah." To his, that is, he should be very careful when he is walking around with his stick on his strap, that he shouldn't put over too much fear on the people. Now, it continues the Psukim in Devarim, and it says over there, Shamoa ben achichem ushvatztem. Hear between your brothers and judge them. What do you learn from this? Hear between your brothers. Rabbi Hanina said, Hazara levedin. This is a warning to a court. Shelo yishma divrei ba'al din, that they may not hear the words of one person, kodem she'yavo ba'al din havero, before the other person arrives. You have two people coming to Bedin. The judge needs to hear them at the same time, meaning they have to both be there, not one before the other. The one didn't show up. You cannot do that. They both have to be there when they're talking. And also, it's a warning on the person who's bringing the court case. He should not say his words to the judge until his baldin, the other person in the judgment, is there. Because the pasuk is written with alif vav, the word shama, and it could be read shamo'a, you shouldn't hear, but also it could be read shame'a, you shouldn't make heard, meaning you shouldn't talk before the other litigant shows up to court. Rav Kahana Omar, Rav Kahana says, Mehacha, you can learn from a different pasuk the same law. It says, Mi lot tisa shema shav, right? You shall not accept a false report, lot tisa, but you can also read it as lot tasi. You shall not make a false report accepted. And so the word, same way, lot tasi, lot tisa, lot tasi. Since you can read it both ways, you can learn both things. Ushvatem tzedek, and judge them righteousness. Amar Reish Lakish, tzedek et hadin, va'achar kach chotchehu. First, the judge has to be 100% certain that what he's saying the halacha is the halacha, and then he says and then he gives his psak. He should not do it when he's still not sure. Ben ish uben ahiv. Amar Yehuda, afilu ben bayit la'aliyah. A judge has to be careful in his judgment, even when he's dealing with a case of Yerusha. A father passed away, and he had a house. It was a 2-story house. Each floor was able to be its own apartment, its own house. So the judge shouldn't say, okay, to one brother you take the top, and the other brother you take the bottom, because one of the floors may be worth more, and therefore he needs to assess the value, and the person who's getting the more value, he needs to take some of it and give it to his brother in order for it to be fair. That's what the judge has to do. He cannot just say you take one, you take the other. He has to judge it based on the monetary value. Ven gero, Amar Yehuda, afil ben tanur lechirayim. The same thing is true with an oven and a double stove. The father left over an oven and a double stove. So an oven is a 1 pot on the top. A double stove has 2 pots on the top. So obviously the 2-pot stove would be more expensive. So he cannot say to one brother, you take one and you take the other. No, he has to, one can take the other, one can take the other, but the other one who gets the bigger one with the more value has to pay his brother the difference in the value. Pasuk continues and says, Lo takiru panim b'mishpat. Do not recognize or respect a person in judgment. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Lo takirehu. Do not recognize a person in front of you who you love. You cannot judge somebody if you love them, because then your judgment is biased. You love them, you want them to win the case. So you cannot do that. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Lo tinkarehu. You should not treat him as a stranger. It didn't mean you shouldn't hate him. You cannot judge somebody when you hate the person. You hate the person, you want him to lose. So a judge has to be unbiased. If for whatever reason he's biased, he cannot judge the case. As the Gemara brings the next story over here, Rav had a host that once hosted him, and the host came to him for judgment. Amalai, he said to Rav, Lav ushpizichni at, were you not my guest? Amalai, so Rav said to him, and yes. Amalai, now this guy said to Rav, Dini Itli, I'm coming to your beddin. I need you to judge me a case. So, he just had a favor from him. He was his host. So Amar Lei, I'm disqualified from being your judge. Now, Tosafot says really he wasn't bribing him. This was something that happened earlier. Some Ikar did really, he could have been the judge, but he didn't want to be the judge because he felt that he may be influenced of a previous favor that he did. And others argue. Rambam says someone who does it, it's completely, even from before, even so. It's
But it's allowed if they did
uh,
something for them, like a
so,
nice favor.
so Tosafot says a previous favor would be fine. He's not puzzle. That's what he says over here. Tosafot. But I saw brought down from the Rambam that they said the Rambam said no. A previous favor also would be a problem. And we'll see a lot of stories of Rabbanim and Amoraim and Tanoim. Someone who did a favor for them even 100 years ago, even to their father, they wouldn't want to be a judge. And Rapam once asked the question. He said, "Why is that?" Gemara says someone helped. One guy helped one of the rabbis cross the street or cross the bridge, and then he said, "Oh, I have a court judgment." And he says, "No, I can't judge it." The guy just helped you cross the street. Why are you? Today you have people can do you favors, so many favors, and you still hate them, and you still don't want to give them good. So how come these rabbis were like that? So he says it has to do with hakarat hatov. Our chachamim have great hakarat hatov. They feel very indebted to someone when they do them a favor. So even a small favor already causes such feeling of being indebted that it's very hard for them to judge the case unbiased. So what did Rav tell this person? Amalei Rav, the Rav Kahana. He said to Rav Kahana, Chazeh puk daine, go and judge this man. Chazeh dahava ka ge'if be. Rav Kahana saw this man was being ga'ist. He was being haughty. He was being, bini bola. He was looking that he can do whatever he wants because he felt he was connected to Rav. So Amar Rav Kahana said to him, if you're prepared to listen, then listen. But if you're not prepared to listen because you think you have Rav in your pocket, I will remove Rav from your strength or from your ear. Basically, I will take Rav away from you. You will not be able to think that he's on your side, and you got it good. That's the story that happens. And you see, even a little favor that might turn person biased has to be very careful. Kikaton kagadol tishma'un. You have to listen to the small as the great, small cases as the big cases. I'm Rish Lakish. A judge has to be careful to judge a case of 1 penny, just as he would judge a case of a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. You cannot say it's just 1 penny, it's okay. You have to judge him very carefully. If you're telling me means he has to judge it carefully, pshita, obvious. It's a court case. The judge has to take every court case serious. Rather, we're dealing with to tell us to give it precedent, meaning judges are supposed to judge most cases. There are exceptions for Tamid Chachamim, but most cases are judged based on a first come, first served basis. So let's say a case of a penny came, a couple of pennies, let's say $1, $20, whatever it is, small amount, and small claims court, right? Something very small. And then a multi-million-dollar lawsuit came. Can the Dayan say, I'm going to deal with the multi-billion-dollar lawsuit. I'm going to put the penny one on the side, $20 on the side. So here the Gemara tells us, no, you have to deal with the one that came first. Now the Marsha says here the article is on note 3. It's interesting. He says a judge is not paid a salary at all. A judge gets payment. When he says one person has to pay the other, a percentage of that goes to the judge. So the judge might think, I'm going to make, what's a percentage of $20 versus a percentage of a multi-million-dollar lawsuit? It's a huge difference, right? So he's going to make a lot more money on the multi-million-dollar lawsuit. That's his payment. Yet he cannot do that. He has to judge the cases as they come to him. The Ben Yehoyada, which is the Ben Ishkai, Rav Yosef, right? Yosef Chaim in Baghdad. He says another reason why you might want to think to judge the judgment of a multi-million-dollar lawsuit first is because the person involved in the lawsuit, the person who thinks he might lose, he might disappear. He might run away. He doesn't want to pay. And so you think maybe I should judge it right now because he's here right now? No, they go on a first come, first serve basis. Okay? The Gemara continues. Lord Tagur Mipnei Ish. Don't be afraid before a person. We already learned this a few times in this Masechet. Amr Hanan. Al tachnis devarecha mipnei ish. Someone, you cannot withhold your word because of a man. Basically, if you see a rabbi or a dayan making a mistake, the person who sees it and knows that it's a mistake needs to, in a nice, appropriate way, make sure that he tells that person that he's making a mistake. This way, the halacha that he's going to tell later on will be correct. Why? As the Gemara continues, Ki mishpat le'Elohimhu, because the judgment is not the judge's judgment. It's supposed to be Hashem's judgment, and the judge is an agent of Hashem. Amr b'Hama b'Hanina, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Lo dayan rishayim shenotlim mizeh mamon, v'notlim mizeh shelo kedin. It's not enough that these evil judges take away money from someone who really is entitled to that money, and they give it to someone who is not entitled to that money. Ela shematrihin oti lahazir mamon lib'alav. However, they matriach me, they bother me and cause hardship to me in order for me to return it. Now, the question that's asked on this by many of the Mefarshim is, nothing is difficult for man. So how could it be that they can say matriach? So in the art school, he brings down a nice note, and he says, nothing is difficult for Hashem. And the Gemara says that inconvenience means that settling the accounts might require changes in the natural course of events. And he's really bringing down this is really the Ben Yehoyada's explanation. And I'll show you here. He brings down the Masifta. Sometimes the person dies right after because of his pain of losing the money. You know, he gets very depressed and he dies. Now he has to come back as a Gilgul. And now Gilgulim, sometimes it changes. A boy becomes a female in the next life. And this is a change in Maaseh Bereshit. And anything that's a change in the way that the world was set up during Bereshit, is called a difficulty or a challenge for Hashem. It's not, but in the sense of changing nature, that's what it is. Yes, Makil.
Who has to give the money back? The judge or the ones who received the money? That should or not?
If you're talking about a case here where the evil judge took the money from the wrong person and gave it to another person it didn't belong to. So Hashem says, I have to go back and change it. And that could be considered, they're causing Hashem hardship because now he might have to change the events of the world in miraculous ways in order to make sure the money gets back. Famous story, I think everyone is really aware of it. I'm not going to go into the story, but you can check it up later. With the Baal Shem Tov had a whole story about the three people at the lake. One of them died, the other person took his money, and the whole thing, it really was a Gilgul from a previous life. You remember that story? You can check it up later on. I'm sure you can find it online if you don't have a book at home about it. But it's all based on Gilgulim. There's a lot of change in natural events. Okay, the Gemara continues. The pasuk continues, and Moshe Rabbeinu told the judges, anything that's hard, bring it to me, and I will listen to it. Rabbi Hanina and some state of Yoshia say, because Moshe said this, he was punished. How was he punished? Moshe Rabbeinu said to the judges, anything that's hard, you bring to me. Meaning, I know the answer. That is gava. That is being haughty. And because of that, he was punished. How was he punished? When Binot Tzilopad, when the daughters of Tzilopad came to say, we should get the inheritance of our father who died not because of Korach, not because of anything else, he died because of his own sin. I'll say it was the Mekushesh Etzim, he's the one who picked up sticks on Shabbat. So they wanted to get the Yerusha as girls. Moshe Rabbeinu said, I don't know. Moshe Rabbeinu had to go and ask Hashem. So you see, because Moshe Rabbeinu said he knows everything, he had to be proven that he didn't know everything, and he was punished. And the Gemara says, Masking blood of Nachum Bar Yitzchak. Nachum Yitzchak said, whoa. When did Moshe say, I know everything. Did he ever say, I know it and I'll tell you? Ushmativ kitiv. He said, no. The Pasuk says, Moshe Rabbeinu says, I'll listen. What does it mean I listen? Giminuna. I'll listen to your case. If I know it, and I'll tell you. Below, and if I don't know it, then I'll go and I'll learn it, and then I'll tell you. Basically, Moshe Rabbeinu never said, I know everything. Moshe Rabbeinu said, listen, you guys, you do the best you can. You don't know the halacha. You come to me, and I'll listen to you. If I know it, I'll tell you. If I don't know it, I'll go to Hashem and I'll find out. So Moshe Rabbeinu never was haughty like that. So then, according to that, then why did Moshe not know the answer of Benot Tzolofhad? He didn't know the answer if the girls can get a Yerusha or not. Ela Kedatanya. Rather, it's like we learned in the Braita. Re'uya parashat nahalot shetichtav ayidei Moshe Rabbeinu. Really, the whole parasha about inheritance should have been given through Moshe Rabbeinu. Ela shezachu benot tzolofchad v'nichtav ayadan. However, the benot tzolofchad were zocher. They had a special merit that it was written through them. What was their special merit? So we know, we're taught what was the special merit of the daughters of Tzolofhad, that these 5 girls, or 5 women, they had so much love for Eretz Yisrael that because of that, they were able to get the halachot of inheritance. Because everybody in the Dor Midbar kept wanting to go back to Misraim. All of them wanted to keep saying, oh, we don't know, going to Eretz Yisrael might be hard, we have to make parnasa, They were the only ones who said, we want to go there, we want to get an inheritance, we want to do it. They were the only ones to do that because of their love, as they were Zionists in that respect, right? The love of Eretz Yisrael, that led them to have that. By the way, I know that in the yeshivish world, the word Zionist can be taken and misconstrued as being, as shalom, not so careful in halacha sometimes. I want to let you know that Rav Shraga Feivel Mendelovich, who was the founder of Yeshiva Torah Vadat, considered himself a Zionist. Of course, the Zionists did not consider him a Zionist, but he considered himself a Zionist. A Zionist means someone who's Ohev Tzion. He loves Tzion. He loves Eretz Yisrael. Tzion being a word for Eretz Yisrael. Now, to love Eretz Yisrael means to love the land of Eretz Yisrael, where Hashem is there, Shekhinah is there, Kedushah is there, Chachamim are there. It doesn't mean that you technically have to love the government that is against the religious people. We obviously protest against that and would do what we can to fight off their rules, as right now they're trying to change Gerut, Kashrut. Even though the prime minister may be wearing a yarmulke on his head, doesn't mean that he understands the halachot and the seriousness of trying to change certain things. So yes, in respect, we're all Zionists and we have love for Eretz Yisrael. We're just we're not fooled by the inconsistencies of those who claim to be Zionists and do not follow the Torah. Side story: when Rosh Hashanah Mendelovich, when the Israeli government came, some members of the Israeli government came and they wanted to visit Yeshivat Torah Vadat. So the Satmar Rebbe told him, don't invite them. Asur. The Satmar is very against Zionism. The Zionists told him to invite them. In the end, what he did was he invited them, but he took the flag of Israel and he wrote on the flag, he stitched onto the flag, or he got it stitched onto the flag, saying, Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, because from Tzion comes out Torah, meaning the whole Eretz Yisrael is about Torah. So in the end, Satmar Rebbe was upset that the Zionists came to him. The Zionists were upset that he defaced their flag by writing Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah. The only one who was happy was himself, as he was a true Zionist in the sense of being a lover of Eretz Yisrael. The Gemara continues. Re'uya hayta parashat mikoshesh shetikatev ayedei Moshe Rabbeinu. Really, the parasha of someone who was Mehalel Shabbat, like the one who collected the sticks, should have been written all through Moshe Rabbeinu. Ela shenithayev mikoshesh v'nichtav al yado. However, because the mikoshesh eitzim was hayab, something he was guilty about, therefore it came through him to teach us a general principle. Lelamdecha. Bad things, harm happen through someone who is guilty. Uzchut al yedei zakai. And good stuff happened through good people. So Benot Shalom Chad, good people, good things came from them. The parsha of the Nachala of Yerusha of inheritance. Mikoshesh Etzim, some sort of he did an Averem Halil Shabbat, and so the halachat of Mikoshesh Etzim were written through him, through his episode. Okay, the Gemara continues. Itiv the Ataveh Eshoftechem Be'it Hahi. Moshe commanded, and it says Moshe, and I, Moshe, commanded your judges at that time. It says, so, he's commanding the judges. Uchtiv, but it's also written, and Moshe commanded the people at that time. So what is he commanding the people, and what is he commanding the judges? So as Omer Rabbi Elazar, Omer Rabbi Simlai, he told the people that they have to have fear of the Dayanim. They have to be fearful of them. Cannot make them a joke. To be serious. And that the Dayan has to tolerate the community. The Dayan has to be someone who tolerates the community. Ad kama, and how much extent, how much they have to tolerate, how much nonsense they have to tolerate. Amar Rabbi Hanan v'yitem Rabbi Shabtai, kasher yisa ha'omen et hayonek. Just as a nursing father carries the suckling child, just as a baby is very fussy when it suckles at the breast for milk, so too, that's the way a judge has to tolerate the people. Now it says here father because the father is a man is a judge, but a father usually is not the one who nurses the child. But yet teaching us that a father, a judge, needs to have this quality of a mother of being able to tolerate the child, right? Because children know that the mother tolerates more nonsense from them than their father, right? Most families, most households, the children, when the mother's home, they can get away with a lot more. And the mother says, "Oh, when your father comes, I'm going to tell them." When the father comes, they kind of calm down, right? As the famous joke goes, that this boy comes home from yeshiva during the month of Adar, and he starts making a lot of balagan at home. And he tells his mother, "What should I do? My Rebbe told me, Mishenichnas Adar marbim misimcha. When Adar comes, to be very happy." So he's making Tehonagizm because he is happy. Then the father walks in. All of a sudden, the boy calms down and relaxes. And he's very spakoina. He's doing his homework, and everything's very nice. So the mother says to him, "What happened? Your father wasn't home. You made crazy. Now your father came home. You're all calm." He says, "Yeah, my Rebbe continued the Mishnah. The Mishnah in Ta'anit says, Mishenichnas Av b'ma'atin b'simcha. When Chodesh Av comes in, Av being the father, you have to reduce the simcha. So when my father comes in, Mishenichnas Av is b'ma'atin b'simcha." Okay, Kitiv. It says here, Ki atat tavo. When Moshe Rabbeinu was talking to Yehoshua, he told Yehoshua, "You're going to go to Eretz Yisrael with everybody. So all together, you're going to walk in." Uchtiv, ki atatavi. But when Hashem is speaking to Yehoshua, it says, "You will lead the children of Israel into Eretz Yisrael." So which one is it? Is he going with them together, or he's leading them inside? Samar Rabbi Yohanan, Amar lo Moshe Yehoshua. Moshe said to Yehoshua, you and the elders in your generation are going to go together into Eretz Yisrael. Basically, you're going to go with the Zekinim. All together, you're going to lead. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Yehoshua, no such thing. You and the Zekinim. To makel lahach al kot kadam. Take a stick and hit the Zekinim on their head. Show them that you're in charge. Because dabari had lador, there can only be one leader for a generation. Ve'en shenei dabarin lador, and not two leaders for a generation. So now That's what Hashem told Yehoshua. The question, though, is what is Moshe Rabbeinu thinking and telling him to lead with the 70, whereas Hashem is telling Yehoshua you have to lead alone. So I'm going to tell you based on the Maharsha. The Maharsha says, you know the pasuk we just mentioned before, like a father that's suckling a child, that's feeding a child through his milk. That is Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu said that pasuk. Moshe Rabbeinu said to Hashem, how much I have to tolerate the Jewish people. And Hashem said, you have to tolerate them completely. So he said, I can't do it alone. Right? So the parasha tells us that Hashem said, collect 70 people, and these Zekinim are going to be with you. You're going to have 71 people, and that's where we get the Sanhedrin from. Moshe Rabbeinu is telling Yehoshua, so you have to have 70. So you're also going to have 70. Then the Maharsha says no, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Yeshua, and that's not true. That was by Moshe Rabbeinu. Aval Dorosh shel Yehoshua hayu b'nei Torah. Yehoshua's generation, the people that came out of Mitzrayim, they were already niftar. All of them died before they went into Eretz Yisrael, except for Caleb and Yehoshua. Everyone else is dead. The new children, the B'nai Torah, they grew up in the mud. They grew up with the clouds. They are very holy. Below sarvanim and tarhanim, there are no troublemakers amongst them. Therefore, they can lead on their own. Because they would listen to Yehoshua. So the Maharsha says Moshe Rabbeinu needed him and 70 other people because the people were not B'nai Torah. They were troublemakers. So he needed more help. But Yehoshua, Moshe Rabbeinu said, be with 70. Hashem tells Yehoshua, you don't need 70 because the people you're leading are B'nai Torah. When you have B'nai Torah, you can have one leader. When you don't have B'nai Torah, unfortunately, you need many leaders, right? You go to places like centers, they need a lot of rabbis there. Why? Because a lot of the people in the centers, unfortunately, not so B'nai Torah. They don't know halakha, they make up their things. So you need a lot of rabbis to be careful with them. You're in a place where everyone's B'nai Torah, right? And you're in Chacham Ovadia's shul, you're in Rabbi Yosef shul over there, you don't need 10 rabbis. One rabbi, 1,000 people are listening to because everybody there is B'nai Torah. Ephraim, you raised your hand for a second?
Yes. But wasn't it Yitro's advice? Moshe never said that he wants to relinquish someone's obligation.
Oh no, he did. He did too. He did say that. No, Moshe Rabbeinu said it's too much for me to carry. These people are always making trouble when they complained about the mun the second time, right?
But he didn't mean like he needed help.
So Hashem said, remember Hashem said, I'm going to take the spirit and I'm going to share it with all of them, and the Eldad and Medad didn't go. That's all that episode. That's when Moshe Rabbeinu was sharing some of his, and then it's like fire, so Moshe Rabbeinu didn't lose it. Yeah, so that's the episode.
I thought that was an idea to kind of, he was wondering what can he do to bring them closer to Hashem, not that he needed help to kind of make
but the Psukim say that he said, I can't tolerate them anymore. They're too much. They're always making trouble. Hashem said, you have to tolerate them like a mother. And Shem said, you know what? I'll give you help. So these people will help you. And there you go.
And that was before Yitro came or after?
After Yitro came. This is towards the end of the 40 years. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I think so. End of the 40 years. It may have been earlier. I have to check, but it's in Bamidbar. It's in Parshat Bamidbar. Exactly where in the chronological order of them being in the desert, I'm not sure. That we would have to check. But
I just thought I didn't realize it was in dealing with the judgment part of it. I thought it was more with coming closer to God. That's why.
And coming closer by not complaining anymore. Okay. All right. Let's see what we have left here. Okay, Tanu. So now we're coming to a new piece based on a Braita. The Braita says Zimun Bishlosha. You have to make Zimun with 3. The Gemara says, my Zimun. What Zimun are you talking about? Ilema Birkat Zimun. Here you're telling me about Birkat Zimun, which is before Birkat Hamazon. Tanya, we already learned this. Zimun. Ubirkat Zimun Bishlosha. Zimun and the bracha of Zimun is done with 3. If you want to say that this Braita was saying an explanation by saying Zimun, my Zimun, Birkat Zimun. What Zimun is Birkat Zimun? Cannot be. But Tanya, we learn zimun bishlosha. Something called zimun is done with 3, and birkat zimun bishlosha. And the bracha of zimun is done with 3. So elamai zimun. So what is zimun? Birkat zimun we know. Birkat zimun is you make zimun before birkat hamazon. Right? Now, this is a side point. Halacha is you sit down with people to eat a meal, you cannot get up and leave without making zimun. You have to make zimun beforehand. So what do? You go to a wedding and places like that, and you're sitting on the same table with 10 men, 3 men, whatever it is, you cannot leave without making a zimun. However, if you sit down with the original intention that you're not planning to join them for a zimun, then you would be allowed to get up without making a zimun and make your own birkat hamazon and leave. So my recommendation, something that I do all the time, whenever I sit down, either in a shul or a party or something like that, I always have kavanah in my head. I say that I'm not planning to sit down to join with them. This way, I don't have to make birkat hamazon. I don't have to wait for them to make a zimun. Now, in the end, if I wanted to join it from a zimun, so I can say at the end, you know what? And if I'm there at the end, I can say, you know what? Let me eat a little bit, and I'm joining them at this point, and that'll be fine. Yes, Ephraim.
Would that be a problem if it's only 3 of you and you don't have a plan to stay with them, but they need you?
Are you
And if you're
telling
gonna,
them? You have to
yeah,
tell them you're not planning to sit here. You're planning to leave right away. Usually at a party or at a wedding, you're sitting around, there's 10, 11 men on the table. So if you leave, there's a lot of zimun. Plus, you're allowed to make zimun with the table next to you and stuff like that. Makil, you had a question?
Yeah, just a quick question. So at the wedding, if you're washing your hands and saying Birkat Hamazon, and then you're saying B'Sheva Bracha, again, you have to do the same thing if you're part of the 10 for the Sheva Bracha. You have to wash your hands again and eat some bread. Let's say for the Seudah of the wedding,
You
you
ate
did
at the
everything.
wedding. You ate at the wedding, and then at
Yes,
the
yeah,
end of the
because
wedding, they're making sheva brachot.
yeah, then dessert came out, and then again they did Sheva Bracha after midnight. So you have to do it again 2 times.
If you made birkat
Or you could
hamazon,
just be part of 10. No, if you just be part of 10 for the Sheva Bracha.
so I have to look into this. I have to pay attention to your question. You're basically asking, in order to say one of the sheva brachot, do you have to be part of the meal? You have to be part of the
Right,
meal.
because they do say wash your hands because they need people to say the bracha
Right,
properly and
right.
stuff like that. So I'm
But
thinking you have to do it 2 times.
my question is that meal that goes at the end of the wedding, is that considered a separate meal from the
It
wedding
looks
itself?
like it. It looks
It
like because
looks
they
like it
clear the table, they bring
especially
out the
because they took
dessert.
out the dessert table.
Right.
So it looks like it's
Separately. It's not. It doesn't go to our table. It just goes to whoever wants steaks. It's like a buffet style. So I don't know. It's just a question that came up.
We have to look into it. So what they do when you came up?
Do we wash you again?
Yes,
and you don't always expect them to say to stay and we need 10. It just happens.
You're usually not the one to stay over. Now get used to it. Now you have close family. Now you're gonna have to start staying. You're gonna be the rabbi in the group. You're gonna make the brachot. You gotta make sure that you're eating well.
right. It's a mitzvah. Yeah, it just came up 2 times.
Okay, we'll look into it. I just wanted to bring that as a side point. This is a very practical thing that happens a lot of times.
Does that mean that he has? Doesn't he have to say Birkat Hamazon in order to say Hamotze again?
Yeah, he said Birkat Hamazon at the table.
In that
now
case,
they invited him again. Yeah. Okay. Now, so what is zimun? So that's Birkat Zimun. So what is zimun? Zimun is the invitation to judgment. Zimun really means invitation. Invitation. I'm inviting you to say grace after meals. That's Birkat Zimun. And a zimun is an invitation to come to judgment. It's a summons. That's what it is. If 3 judges are sitting and they send a summon to someone to come appear before them, and the agent goes and says, 1 rabbi is calling you. Basically, 3 rabbis, Rabbi Yeruven, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Levi, are sitting on a betin. They tell this guy, go and call this guy to come. They tell you who to go call Yisachar. Yehuda goes to Yisachar and tells Yisachar, Rabbi Shimon is calling you. He didn't mention Ruvain. He didn't mention Levi. In such a case, lo amar klum. He didn't say anything. The person does not have to respond to that summons. Ad amar mishmei dechula. Until he says the summons in the name of all 3 judges. That's what it means, zimun b'shlosha. It has to be that the invitation is given from all 3 judges, the summons from all 3. Gemara makes one qualification. Hani mili lo yomad dina. That's only if it's not on the day of judgment, right? Ezra decreed that twice a week it should be judgment day, Monday and Thursday. So if it's a Monday and Thursday, even if the guy comes and summons in name of one of the judges, it's still considered a good summons, and he has to come. If he doesn't come, they can actually put him into chayim or whatever. The guy will get punished. So on Monday and Thursdays, if the guy says it in one name, he still has to show up. And any other day, they tell him to show up. It has to be in all three names of the judges. Someone asked me on Shabbat, and I don't have the answer for it, but it's a good question. Someone asked, what happened if the guy says it in the name of the court? He doesn't bring the name of the judges. He says the Beddin of Mikor Hayim, let's say, is telling you to come. Is that good enough? Or has the dafka be the names of the judges? I don't know. From this point in the Gemara, I don't see it. It seems to be saying it's saying in the name of the judges. I don't know. So hopefully at some point we'll figure it out. Okay. Tashlume kefo, the payment of double payment. Any payment that is more than the damage or more than the item is considered a penalty payment. We're fining you. We're giving you a fine. For example, you get a ticket, parking ticket. You didn't do anything damage to anyone. It's a fine. They're charging you as a penalty. So penalties is a different level of monetary judgment. So the Gemara has a question. Shalach le Rav Nachman Rav Chizda Rav Nachman Bar Yaakov. Rav Nachman Rav Chizda is the center of Nachman Bar Yaakov. Yilmadeinu Rabbeinu. Rabbi, please teach us. Dinei kinasot bekama. When you're dealing with penalties, kefo, 4 or 5 times, whatever the penalty is, how many people do we need to judge a penalty case? My kimiboyle. What was the question? Ha'anantanan b'shlosha. We learned the monetary cases need 3, but we said in monetary cases regarding loans, eleyachid mumche kimiboyle. We know that you can use one expert judge. Da'in dinei kinasot olo. Can we say the same thing by penalties? Can we have one expert judge? Can we have one expert judge being the judge for penalties, or do we really need 3? So Amalei, he said to him, Tinutaha. We learned it in a Mishnah. Tashlume kefel v'tashlume arba v'chamisha b'shlosha. All these penalty payments, you need 3 judges. My shlosha, what shlosha, what 3? Ima my shlosha hediotot. If you think you're talking about 3 regular people, you just make them into a bedin, like you do for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur before you do Hatarat Nidarim, right? Maybe you thought you could do that. But your father said, Mishmei Rav, the name of Rav, Afilu Asara, the hen hediotot pesulini d'nei kinasot. You cannot do penalty payments, even if you have 10 people, but they're all commoners. Ela mumhin. Rather, you need mumhin, experts. You need 3 expert judges, and you need them to be 3. You cannot do it less than 3. 3 expert judges. Now, we already saw that the word mumhin can mean expert, and also could be judges who have smicha from Moshe Rabbeinu. Means ish mipi ish. From Moshe Rabbeinu, the straight line, they have smicha. Today, we don't have smicha. And the halacha is that kinasot, these kinasim, these fines, can only be judged by judges who have smicha from Moshe Rabbeinu. Except, there is one time where judges could judge even today. So Chanarol brings 2 exceptions. You have to have 2 criteria to meet this exception. Today's judges can judge cases of penalties when it's someone suffered a loss and it's a common manner of damage. Meaning it's something that happens often, it's a common something that happens, and someone suffered a loss. I believe the reasoning I saw once was because if you didn't deal with these cases, then people would be losing out and people wouldn't take them serious. So therefore, these cases of common damage that someone suffered a loss, those cases involving penalty could be judged today. Now, how are they judging? They're not ordained. They don't have smicha ish mipi ish from Moshe Rabbeinu, ish miyadish mi Moshe Rabbeinu, but they say that they're getting their power from those who did have smicha from Moshe Rabbeinu. They're acting as shlichim from those who did have the smicha in Eretz Yisrael that was ish mipi ish from Moshe Rabbeinu. Only in this criteria, you have to meet that criteria. Otherwise, in a regular, sort of speaking sense, cases of penalty are not judged by today's judges, because we do not have smicha from Moshe Rabbeinu, and going down is no longer in existence.
So it's regular betin nowadays.
Regular betin could judge penalty cases that are common and someone suffered a loss. Those are the two. You need those two in order for them to judge.
I thought it was 3 regular people.
You need 3
that asked permission of the judges from betin, no?
3 judges that we have today. Our judges today are considered hedyotot, regular people. We don't have judges that have Moshe Rabbeinu's smicha. We don't have that today. Those judges.
Nobody.
Canceled already in the times of the Talmud, or after Talmud time. During that time, the Romans killed all of them who had it, and you only could get it in Eretz Yisrael. So you couldn't pass it on in Bavel. So it's over. No one has it anymore. There's a way to bring it back based on the Rambam, and that's what they try to do in Eretz Yisrael with Maran Beit Yosef, the Shulchan Aruch. Using the Rambam's opinion of how to bring it back, they had over 100 or 200, depending on which way you're learning, 200 Rabbanim that said that Rav Yosef Karo he was going to get smicha that's considered smicha from Moshe Rabbeinu, but 200 Rabbanim giving him permission. However, and that's why the Shulchan Aruch is so accepted, because of that. However, there was a rabbi in Yerushalayim, and this is all happening in Tzfat. There was a rabbi in Yerushalayim, he wasn't so happy that they were doing this without his approval, and he wasn't one of the 200. He kind of said this is a no-go. And basically, no one else ever got smicha that led from Maran Beit Yosef. So Maran Beit Yosef is the one exception since then that we hold did have a very strong force of smicha based on the Rambam's way of bringing it back. However, there were Rabbanim that were against it, and therefore it doesn't continue and doesn't exist anymore today. And that's why we Sfaradim who did accept Maran Beit Yosef, that's why you think Chacham Ovadia will take the Shulchan Aruch as being, the code. He doesn't like, most times he'll never go against the Shulchan Aruch. I mean, very, very, very special cases he might argue in a minhag or something like that. But la halacha, he almost never argues Shulchan Aruch. In fact, Chacham Ovadia's whole mahalach in halacha was to bring back the Shulchan Aruch shita, because Sfaradim throughout the generations got confused with all the Ashkenazim and everyone else influencing them, and then the government edicts that caused them to forget. So it was problematic. We, Baruch Hashem, went back to following the Shulchan Aruch. Baruch Hashem. That's why everyone knows for Sfaradim, we cannot eat Hadash, wheat that is of the new crop. You have to only eat Yashan. The Shulchan Aruch says it twice in the Shulchan Aruch. It's a very strict halacha. In fact, it's as strict as hametz. Anything that has flour in it and it's of hadash, it's already considered asur to eat.
Looking for chutz la'aretz, right? Twice.
Anywhere. That makes no difference according to the Shulchan Aruch. Doesn't make a difference
It's the same
for that. The whole thing of the chutz la'aretz, this is based on a bach, and this is really for the Ashkenazim. And it's really his only lenience is when it's shatat chak, when it's very difficult to get yashan flour. Today, even the Bach's pshat wouldn't really hold true for anyone because it's not so hard. In Eretz Yisrael, they only use yashan. Almost all the kosher agencies only use yashan. In America, you remember when they first started the kosher agencies, they started with every leniency possible. The OU has every leniency possible. The VHQ has even more leniencies possible than the OU. And so they always started from a very lenient position rather than starting from a stricter position. Today, Baruch Hashem, more people are understanding that we have the ability to be stricter because we have We have Yashin flour. We have all these things. So more of the Haredi communities in Lakewood, in Brooklyn, and in places like that, they've already have started to keep Yashin. Even in the five towns, a lot of the restaurants, not the Chinese type of food, but most of the other bakeries and other type of places, supermarkets, all use Yashin, and it's slowly but surely it may even become a policy for the lot of
Restaurants too.
most restaurants. Yeah, most restaurants would be. And
So
what the what the Vada running of five towns did, which is very nice, on their website, every restaurant you can see their hidurim, what they do extra than what the policy actually is. So you can see who keeps Yashan, who keeps Bishul Yisrael, who does all these different things. Anyway, that's off topic. We still have a big piece of Gemara to do, and we're running a little bit late. Does anyone have to run off, or we do have? We need about 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes. We might go over a little bit. So around 1:40. Malkiel, we're good, or?
yeah, it's fine.
Okay, if you have to get off, you can get off whenever. You can listen to the shir towards the end to get through it. Okay, let's go through the next case. And Rav Meir said with three. What's a Maitzi Shemra? I'm going to try to say it in the most kosher way possible. It's basically someone gets married and his wife is, he thought she was a betula, and he finds out that she's not a betula. So now he comes and he says, my wife's not a betula. So technically, if they have edim that she was with someone else during their engagement, okay, you have to remember this part also. In the times of the Talmud, they did what's called erusin first, engagement first. That's considered a legal marriage. Then a year later, they got kiddushin. They did the chuppah. Today, it doesn't exist that way. Engagement and wedding happens at the exact same time under the chuppah. What we call engagement is just we're agreeing to get married. It's not considered halachically engagement, because if you're halachically engaged, then you are legally married. And if she does anything during that time, and it can be proved, she can lose her life, right? And if it can't be proved, but he can prove something, they actually will reduce her ketuvah. So the question here is, there are some who say if the key comes and says she wasn't a betula, some say he needs 23 judges, and some say only 3 judges are needed. So what happened here? How can you have both? How can you have this? The Gemara's question is, from the factor of Meir saying you only need 3, it must be talking about a case. Where he's coming about the money. He's coming to say, I don't want to pay her 200 zuz for ketuvah. I want to reduce it. She is not a betula like I thought. I don't have to pay her the 200 anymore. So it's a case of money. It's a case of money. You only need 3 judges. So if you only need 3 judges, why did the Chachamim say you need 23? So Omar Ula said, we're worried about Gav. People are going to be talking about this case. When people are going to be talking about this case, 2 people might say, oh, I remember seeing her going with this person and this happening, and they may come to court. And if they come to court, now it went from a monetary case and it got bumped up to a case of capital punishment. And as such, you need 23 people. So therefore, Rabbi Meir said, we're not worried about people talking and Adam showing up. The Rabbanan Savar, but the Rabbanan hold, we are worried that people will hear and someone will come forward and she may lose her life. Therefore, you need to start with 23 judges. So Meir is not worried about people talking about it, and the Rabbanan are, and therefore they require 23. That's the answer from Ula. The Gemara is going to give now 7 more answers. So that's why we have to finish up this topic before the end of the Shia. Rabbi said, Kule Alma the Laz Lo Chashin. Everyone holds we're not worried about people talking. No one's going to show up. Rather, we're worried about the judge's kavod. What happened? We're dealing The husband came to court and said, my wife is not a bitula. I know something happened. I'm going to prove it. I'm going to find witnesses. And then he didn't find witnesses. So now it's no longer a capital punishment case. And all 23 judges walked away. But he says, you know what? You know what? I want to reduce her ketuvah. So let's judge a monetary case. So now the question is, can you go from 23 to 3? Or since you started at 23, you have to remain at 23. So Rameir says it's a monetary case. All you need is 3. The Rabbanan say once you started with 23, it's not kavod to tell them bye-bye. Why are some judges going away and some judges staying? It's not kavod. Therefore, everything has to stay at 23. So really how you look at the case. According to Ula, you look at the case starting with Mammon going to Nifashot. That's why you need 23. Whereas, according to Rava, really he started with 23 because he said it's going to be a capital punishment case, but then it turned into Mamonot. So therefore, that's what they're arguing on. Now, before the Gemara gives the other 6 answers, it has one question. One question and all the answers. This is the one question. Meifed, they asked the question. We have a teaching, the rabbi said, Tava'o mamon b'shlosha. He comes for a case of money, you judge with 3. He says, I want to reduce her ketuvah, you judge with 3. Tava'o nefashot be'esrim u'shlosha. But if he comes and says, I want her dead, right? You come with 23 judges. So, Bishlei Male Rava. Now, it's understanding according to Rava. Tavo mamon tchila. If you come only with money, so you only need 3. Rava says the only time you need 23 to start with is if he says, I want her killed. I have witnesses, right? But if you want it just for money, all you need is 3. Mamon tchila. Bishlosha. Tavo nafshot tchila. If he came with saying, I want her life, I feel mamon be'esim u'shlosha. So, and then he goes, if he came in the beginning with nefesh, wanting to kill her, and then he went to Mammon, so you could stay with 23, depending how you want to learn. Ela le'ula. But according to Ula, when do you ever have a case with starting with 3? According to Rava, you could start with 3 if he's only just going for money. Okay? According to Ula, even if you're just starting with 3, we're always worried people are going to talk about it and someone's going to come, so you always need to start with 23. So how could the Chachamim say, if he's coming for money, all you need is 3? No! And people might hear about it, you need 23. So according to Ula, the Chachamim don't make sense. So how is the Gemara going to explain this? Amar Rava said, Ani, be'arisha bechabura, me and the line that was in our group, Targimina umanu Rabbi Chia bar Avin. And who was this? Rabbi Chia bar Avin. We learned it a certain way. And this is the way we learn it that will be explained according to Ula. Hachamai eskinon. Sheheviha bal edim shizinta. Sheheviha av edim v'hazimum le'edei habal. The husband brought edim that said the wife did X, Y, and Z, and then the father of the wife brought other edim that said they could never have seen this happen because on that day they were in Disneyland with me and they couldn't have seen anything happen, and therefore they're edim zomamim, and they cannot punish the wife now. So now the father canceled out their edut. So balig bot mamomi bal. Now the father brings a court case. He wants money from the husband. He's entitled to 100 coins from the husband for saying motzi shemra, for bringing out a false statement about the wife. So he now wants to bring money case now. Bishlosha. Now, because it's a money case, all what you need is 3. That's what this Braita was talking about. It's talking about a case where the father is coming, and therefore it's only a money case. It's not a case anymore about nifashot. And if it's a case that might lead to nifashot, where the husband's initiating the story, then according to Ula, you're going to need 23. Okay, this is the way you learn from Ula. The way you learn from Rava. Amar Abaya. Abaya Amar. Abaya said another answer. Why Rabbi Meir says you need 3. And why the Rabbanan said you need 23. Everyone is worried about, someone might hear about it and bring Eidim. And we're worried about the judge's honor. But what case are we dealing with here? They warned her without specifics. The halakha in the Torah is you cannot give anybody punishment until you give them a warning. There's a machloket, how much the warning has to be. A, you have to tell them what they're doing wrong. B, you have to tell them you're hayav a punishment. Do you have to tell them what punishment you're getting? Meaning, they're telling the lady, if you're going to be mizaneh, you're going to be killed. But there are 4 ways Beit Din can kill. They didn't say which way. Is that considered a good warning or not? But this is what the case is. You go into Atru Basatan. They gave her a stam warning. You're going to be killed for being mizaneh. They didn't say how. The Tanya, we have a Braita. All the people who are chayav mitah, and memitin otam el be'ida. You need to have people there. You need to have a court, ve'edim, and you need to have witnesses. V'hatra'a, you have to have a warning. V'ad sheridu'uhu shu chayav mitah be'beit din. And you have to tell them they're going to be chayav mitah in beit din. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, ad sheridu'uhu be'eze mitah hu neherag. You have to tell them which death they're going to get. So this case was a case where they didn't tell her which death. So according to those not like Rabbi Yehuda, according to the Tanakama, that's a good warning. Therefore, it's a case of nefashot. You need 23 judges. According to Rabbi Yehuda, they didn't tell her what type of death. Therefore, it's not a case of nefashot. Therefore, it's only mammon. And therefore, all what you need is 3. That's the opinion of Abaya in this case. Rav Papa Omar, Rav Papa said, Hacha bi'isha habera askinan. We're dealing with a Talmudical woman. Yes, Safran, you had a question?
Yeah, should I ask a question afterwards, after we finish all the cases?
If you can remember, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Rav Papa says we're dealing with a woman who's a chavera. Chavera means she's very knowledgeable in Torah. Chaver means someone who's a Talmud Chacham. Chavera is someone who's she's very wise in Torah. Now, why does it make a difference? There's a machlok of Yossi bar Yehuda and Rabbanim. Right? The Tanya, Yossi bar Yehuda Omer, Chaver ein tzarich hatra. You do not have to give a warning to a Talmud Chacham. Why? The whole point of a warning is to tell the person what you're about to do is wrong. So he might say, I didn't know. But a Talmud Chacham knows it's wrong. Right? So therefore, you don't have to give them warning. To tell him that he's going to do something wrong. So, if you hold, you don't have to give a Talmud Chacham warning. So then even the woman did it. She didn't get a warning. It's a dinei nefashot. You can kill her, so you have to have 23 judges. If you hold that you need to give a Talmud Chacham a warning, and even this wise woman needs a warning, and you can't kill her since no one gave a hatra'ah. So therefore, it's only mammon, and all you need is 3 judges. That's Rav Papa's answer. Rav Ashi Omar, Rav Ashi says, Kigon da'atru be malkut v'lo atru be ketala. You know what happened? The people came and gave her a warning, and they said, you're going to go and be mizana, we're going to give you malkut. They gave her the wrong punishment. They said malkut instead of death. Now, since they gave her the wrong punishment, they have to punish her with malkut now. And that's a machokish Rabbi Shmuel and the Rabbanon. Ditnan, they learned makot b'shlosha. You need makot, you just give with 3 judges. But Rabbi Shmuel says be'esim u'shlosha. You need 23. So if you're punishing the woman with the wrong punishment, you're giving her malkut versus death. Malkut is a machloket, whether you need 3 or 23, and therefore it's 3 or 23. That's the case. Ravina Amar. We're up to now the 6th answer. Ravina Amar. Kigon shenimtza echad men edim karov o pasul. It's where you find out that one of the edim was a relative or pasul. He was not a legitimate witness. If you're not a legitimate witness, you cannot give testimony. Meaning if you do gambling or something like that, you cannot already be a witness. You're a Rasha, you cannot do witness. Or you're a relative, you cannot be a witness. They come up fligi befuk the Rabbi Yossi, the Rabbi Ilibad, the Rabbi Akiva. And they're arguing between Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi in Rabbi Akiva. The Tnan, we learned in the Mishnah. Rabbi Akiva Omer. Lo vashlishi el hachmir alav la'asod dino keyotze be'elu. The Torah tells us you have 2 witnesses, you have 3 witnesses, you listen to them. Now, why does it say 2 and 3? 2 witnesses, 3 witnesses, 100 witnesses are all the same. Once you have 2 witnesses, it's the same. We don't say, you got 5 witnesses is a better testimony. That's not what the halacha is. Anyone 2 and above, it's all considered the same testimony. So why does it say 2 and 3? So Rabbi Kiva tells us it's coming to teach us that you punish the 3rd guy just as much as you would punish the 2 guys. Meaning, if they're found to be false witnesses, we do to them what they wanted to do to someone else, right? Edim zomimim. So the third guy can say, hey, it wasn't me. They gave witnesses, punish them. No, you were part of the group. You're considered, you get punished too. So Rabbi Kiva adds from this the Musar. He says, if this is what the Torah says about punishment, someone who's an accomplice of an Avirah gets treated like a person doing an Avirah, right? That's why the whole Egel Hazov happened. The Jews didn't do it, Rav did it, but they kept quiet. You're an accomplice, you get punished too. How much more so if someone is involved in a mitzvah, he doesn't even do it. So if someone is an accomplice of a mitzvah, he helps someone do a mitzvah, he tells someone to do a mitzvah, how much more so he gets rewarded. Now, and just as in the case of two witnesses, one of them is found to have been a relative or pasul, let's say two brothers and another guy saw the crime and they came. Since it's the two brothers, it becomes pasul. So too, the three witnesses. If one of them is pasul, all three witnesses become pasul now. So if you have three witnesses, two of them are brothers, now these two can really give, but they came three together. Therefore, all of it becomes pasul now. Even if you had 100 witnesses and one of them are brothers, what's that? Two people there are brothers. Whole edus becomes pasul. Now, when Rabbi Yossi says, when does this happen? When do we say it becomes pasul the edut if there's two brothers in a group of 100 edim? Only when it's up to capital punishment. But when it comes to money, cancel out one of the brothers, and you're left with good testimony. But when it comes to money, but Rabbi says, Rabbi Huda Nasi says, whether it is testimony about capital punishment, whether it's testimony about money. If there is a brother, someone who's pasul, you cancel him out and you accept the rest of the testimony. You're not going to be pasul the whole edut. The ematai, and when is this? When they give the warning. When they give the warning, one of the witnesses has to be canceled out. According to Rishonim, they say it means when they come to Bedin. The brother shouldn't come to Bedin. But when they didn't give the warning, imagine someone wants to commit a crime, he wants to kill somebody. So what does he do? He says, you two are brothers, come here. And he kills somebody, and now he says no one can go to Bedin because you have two brothers. The whole edut is pasul. So you cannot say that. The guy's going to get away with murder. Every time he wants to kill somebody, he takes two brothers with him. They watch it, and now no one can bring edut. So therefore, what you could do is one of them can recluse himself and can say, I'm not going to give edut, and the other brother can go with somebody else and could give the edut. So based on this machloket, that's the case that happened here. Two brothers and another person saw this woman being the zanit. So according to the one that says, when it comes to Didei Nefashot, you cannot cancel it out. It all becomes pasul. So therefore, it's only a case of money, and all you need is three people, three judges. According to the one that says it doesn't get canceled out, you just cancel one person, and the rest of the testimony stays. So therefore, it remains Dinei Nefashot. You're going to require 23. The seventh answer, the Ibait Ema, another answer. It's a case where they saw the woman about to make the sin, but the witnesses weren't the ones to give the warning. People, other bystanders gave the warning. Is that good enough? So it's a machloket. It's according to the machlokes Rabbi Yossi Rabbanon and the rabbis. It's not Rabbi Yossi Omer. One can never be executed until the witnesses warned him. It has to be done through the two edim. So according to the opinion, you need the edim to give the warning, and here there was no warning given by the witness. It was given by someone else. So then it cannot be a case of capital punishment. It's a case of money, and all you need is three. But according to that opinion, that as long as anyone gave the warning, it's still a capital punishment. It doesn't have to be the edim. So then it's a case of capital punishment, and you're going to need 23. Coming to the final answer, the Vaisema, the final answer, why it's a case of either 3 or 23, why they're arguing. It's when a problem came when they were asking questions. When the judge was asking questions, there's two sets of questions they have to ask all the witnesses. They have to ask them when it happened, and they have to ask them what happened. So the guy made a mistake in one of those set of questions. They didn't get contradicted in the inquiries. They got contradicted in examinations. The story happened there with Ben Zakkai. He was looking at the stems. So they messed up in some of the questions. So there's an opinion that they messed up in certain questions. If they messed up in the questions of the type of weapon, right? They messed up with the type of weapon, then the whole testimony is negated. But if they messed up on the exact day or something like that, it stays. So that's a machloka, does it stay or not? So according to the one that says it stays, and it's a case of dinei nefashot, you need 23. According to the one that says they mess up any question, it gets thrown out. Then it's only dinei memanot. Therefore, you only need 3. In note 11 in the art scroll on page 9B1, they go through all 8 answers in a summary, and you can take a look through there to see the 8 that we just went through. Ephraim, you had a question? I'll take your question at this time.
First, since when do Chachamim worry what people will say? We don't even follow this nowadays.
The Chachamim are worried that the case will become known, and witnesses who saw it happen will come now and give testimony, and that will cause it to become a case of capital punishment, which will require 23. That's their worry.
One more time.
Their worry is that people will hear about the case, and then Eidim who actually saw what happened would now have to come forward. And if they have to come forward, it might turn into a capital punishment case.
So
right.
They're worried about the people finding out only in monetary, only in Fashot cases, but in monetary it's okay.
Right. So in a regular monetary case, we don't care if people hear about it or not. We're talking about a dinei fashot. Since it might lead to a dinei fashot, we have to be worried about it. And therefore start with 23.
Okay. And in the different case, the husband has to tell her, but he doesn't have to specify each and every scenario how he should catch her.
That's for sotah. That's different. You're talking about sotah. When it's a sotah, he tells her you cannot seclude yourself. All they have to see is her going into a private room with that person. But this case is not that they saw her being secluded. They saw her actually being mizaneh. They actually saw her doing it with someone else. It's a different thing. It's not sotah. You actually saw her doing this sin.
And what's the halakha? How do we follow it though?
For what?
For this scenario, he has to tell her exactly how she will get punished.
For sotah, yes. For sotah, he has to tell her.
In our scenario,
Oh, if the witnesses would have to say exactly how she will get punished. Yeah, I believe so.
So it's the same way, just like it's the same way, just like Menachal Shabbat, right?
Yeah, he has to be warned.
Right.
He has to be warned. Yep. Even a Talmud Chacham has to be warned.
Right. So it's the same way.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, Nabotai, thank you very much for sticking around. I know it was a little longer than usual, but Baruch Hashem, we got it through. Thank you. Shavua Tov L'Kulam.
Thank you.